Welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. When you're ready to transform your sales for today's transforming market, we've got you covered with your host, the queen of cold calling and founder of Salesology, award-winning author, speaker, sales trainer, and coach, Wendy Weiss.
Hi, welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. And I'm your host, Wendy Weiss. I am the founder of Salesology, creator of the Salesology prospecting method, and I'm also known as the queen of cold calling. Well, today, my very special guest is Samantha Phillips, and she is the Sales Enablement Manager at SHI International. She leads strategic initiatives across both the commercial and the public sector divisions. She has over 5 years of enablement experience in high-volume IT sales, and she builds scalable onboarding programs, develops impactful training, and drives process improvements that boost sales performance. So that's what I'm going to be talking to Samantha about. And Samantha partners with sales and technical leadership to coach enablement tools, ensuring that sellers are equipped for success. Her programs have achieved high satisfaction scores and retention rates, reflecting her commitment to results and culture. Samantha is passionate about creating engaging learning experiences and fostering professional growth. She's recognized for her collaborative approach, problem-solving skills, and dedication to elevating sales teams. So welcome, Samantha Phillips.
Hey, hi, Wendy.
Hey, hi, Samantha. I'm very happy that you are here today. And I'm going to start at the beginning, which is where, Samantha, I always start. How did you get into sales enablement?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was a seller originally at SHI in the commercial business area, and I was at the time networking a little bit with the enablement team. I was networking with them to help create better materials for myself and my own team. And whenever they put a job posting out, this was years ago, they tapped me on the shoulder like, "Hey, you might want to fill out that sales enablement trainer position." And I was like, "All right." So that's how I ended up joining the team. From there, I've been a trainer on sales enablement with onboarding classes and workshops. I've also been the program manager for our sales enablement programs that we have as well too. And then I've been the sales enablement manager for 3 years now. And it's been quite a journey. So I've got to do a little bit of everything on at least our sales enablement team that we have today. And it's a lot of fun. And there's always more learning, which is great because I'm a very much of a continuous learning type of person.
Okay. So before we really jump into sales enablement, I have to ask you what made you go into sales in the first place?
Yeah, so I moved to Austin and I was just looking for a job at the time. And I just went to this interview, and the energy I got from SHI, from the sales culture as well too. I'm a very competitive person naturally as well. And it just drew me into wanting to be around people like me, wanting to be able to build my own book of business, have a little bit of my own authority. Uh, and now I get to teach other sellers how to do that as well too. But I would say the people and the energy is really what brought me over into sales.
Okay. So let's go back to sales enablement. And let's begin with a definition so we all know what we're talking about. What exactly does sales enablement mean?
Yeah, sales enablement has evolved so much over the past few years, just for the past over 5 years that I've been in it. People viewed it as L&D for a really long time of doing professional development and just, kind of the HR stuff as well too. Sales enablement's really grown into its own thing apart from just the L&D portion of how do we actually drive the sales process and get people closer to closing deals? How do we ramp up people faster as well too? Just getting people really accommodated to not just the tools, but how do they get that mindset, that behavior as well too? Some people, it's definitely in their blood where they want to have, that extroverted and people culture building spirit to them. Some people, they need to have a little bit more of a shift in that mindset of what it means to be a salesperson. So for our team, that's what we work on a lot is the sales productivity, the mindsets, and the behaviors for people.
Okay. So I'm going to take a step back. L&D, it's not L&D. Let's define that.
Yeah, I mean, learning and development, I think that's kind of how it was when I first joined on the team. It was a mix of, just basic, stuff of when it comes to professional development, personal branding, all of that is extremely important. We work very close with our L&D team. They're our sister team that we work hand in hand with. But definitely a different type of nature to it. I would say, we're very specific to the sales org. L&D, they have a lot of things that are for everybody in the company, which is wonderful because everybody is part of this process, that being marketing, that being your engineers. They get to cover a large scope of people while we get to be focused on the sales organization.
Okay. So what are the things that salespeople need to be equipped for success? I mean, when I introduced you and I was reading
Mhm.
your bio, and I'm going to go right back to it, and said you help ensure sellers are equipped for success. So, what are the elements? What is it that they need to be equipped with, and how does that translate into the tools that you provide to them?
Mhm. Yeah, for us, I mean, we focus on frameworks. It's a big portion of what I like to look at and see how our frameworks are working. For us, it's being that customer centric approach that people need to have towards their customers. I know for myself, when I go through and look at or not customer videos, but seller videos on cold calling and reaching out, they're focused a lot on getting that meeting, getting that, that touch point, that first opportunity. I want them to work on building a relationship. That's what's going to give them long-lasting relationships with their customers. That's what's going to make them essentially an extension or a part of their team as well, too. And not just be a seller to them. We want them to be a resource to their customers. So for me, I would say the customer centric approach and relationship building, that's the biggest thing we need to prepare sellers for. You can prepare them for short term stuff pretty easily. It's kind of like throwing stuff at the wall, but how do we actually get them to have, long lasting relationships with their customers?
Okay. So what you've said is really very interesting to me. So I'd like to dig a little
Mhm.
deeper, because we teach prospecting and we
Mhm.
do actually teach cold calling. And so you said something to the effect of lots of times people that are cold calling, they're focused on getting that meeting, and you think it's more important, and correct me if I got any of
Mhm.
this wrong,
Oh yeah.
but you think it's more important to build the relationship, and that's something that I hear a lot. The question that I always have is how do you build a relationship with somebody if they won't talk to you? So to me, getting that meeting it's not the relationship, it's the start
Mm.
of the relationship. And then you build from there. So I'm curious how you look at that. Or are we
Yeah.
saying the same thing in a different way?
I think same thing, different way. I don't say there's a lot of people when they come in, they're just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. We don't want them to do that. We want them to go in with a strategy. There are going to be customers you have to have that first time meeting. You have to introduce yourself. Might get really lucky and get it on the first try. We always see a few of those sellers. You might get 20, 30 calls, emails, voicemails before you even get all right, fine, let's talk. But we want them to go in with a strategy, finding out like what is actually important to this customer and not just what's important to them, but why is it important to them and how do you bring value? Because if you're not bringing value to your customer, why are you calling them? You're just trying to meet a metric. It's like we want you to go in with the actual strategy and showing where your value comes from. So we do tons of cold calling and prospecting. It's actually one of my favorite things to talk about with sellers, or when I was a trainer, those were some of my sessions I always went to. So it's just going in with an actual strategy for them.
Since we're talking about cold calling and we want the seller to go in with a strategy, how do the sales enablement tools help them do that?
Yeah, for us, it's first just exposing them to what resources does the seller have for themselves. What can they use? What do they like to use? And then truly understanding how to use those tools. Because it's always, the first couple of months with sellers, especially when you just hired sellers, they're drinking from a fire hose. Only so much sticks. So you have to get that exposure to them early. And then that's where I like to go into two different levels of understanding with them when it comes to our tools, processes, and frameworks is let's get them in front of the framework. Do you understand it from a high level on how to build relationship with customers, how to build a strategy with them before you start cold calling? And then once we get to that deeper level understanding, I really like to work on application. That's where my team has really made our bread and butter over the past year is how do we get them to start role playing? How do we actually have them talk to the customers and feel organic, not reading from a script, not making their own scripts and still trying to make it authentic to them, but how do you just have a conversation with somebody? Um, I would say the application's probably been the biggest help that we've seen for sellers where we get tons of feedback where we bring in different resources also for them to role play with. And now that we also have AI in the world is how do we utilize our new AI friends and tools as well too for that application. And then from there it's a lot of retention for them as well. How do we keep them to retain that knowledge, to keep using that skill? It's just like a sport. You just have to keep practicing. You have to keep doing it over and over. If you haven't been on the golf course for a year and you probably go back, you're going to be a little rusty. And we don't want them to get rusty. We want to keep giving them places where they can apply themselves as well.
Okay, yeah, you're speaking my language, muscle memory. So I'm assuming here that some of the tools that you're talking about are things like data resources or content resources, maybe a CRM, um, something that automates what they're doing. And am I understanding what you're talking about?
Yeah, so we have our own CRM and we have our own internal systems that we use a lot for that prospecting. Who is your customer? What do we have so far? And then we just have so many tools nowadays that we can, how do you use, YouTube? How do you use their Instagram? It's almost shocking sometimes that people forget to go to a customer's website and actually dig deep into that. It's like you don't want to just know who your customer is, but who are your customers' customers as well too. And that's a really important thing for our sellers to bring up is if you don't know who your customers are serving as well too, then you don't truly know what value you can bring to them as well as like where how far that impact can go.
It sounds to me like you're referencing kind of an old-fashioned checklist of things that they need to know and things that they need to be doing in order to be successful, except in your case, it's more automated than a checklist.
Yeah. I mean, we do have a checklist for people who like checklists, but also, there's other tools out there that we all have that people prefer to use as well too. So even though I have a checklist, I try to keep updated as much as possible. I try to tell them it's like find whatever works for you, what feels comfortable at first. And then my ask is keep stepping out of your comfort zone a little bit more each time as well. It was like it's going to feel so much more achievable if you just take it one step at a time. Is if you're trying to focus on doing 5, 10 different things to get better at, you're just going to kind of mediocrely go up in each of those rather than hyper focusing on one where you're stepping out of your comfort circle. You're really trying to push yourself. you're going to exponentially do so much better as a seller. And all those other things are going to naturally start going up with you as well, too.
Absolutely. So here's a really big question that I have for you. The question that everyone wants the answer to. Pressure's on, Samantha.
All right, let's do it.
How do you get salespeople to use the tools that you're giving them,
Oh,
especially CRM?
oh, I love this question actually, because this has been a big focus that I've been working on this past year. For us, I've noticed a where the gap was is we were getting sellers bought in, but sometimes they have so many different things on their plate that they're trying to juggle everything. Then we also get the stakeholder, the RDs, the VPs buy-in as well too. I noticed it was the middle managers we weren't getting the buy-in. We weren't keeping them up to date from a sales enablement perspective. And it was starting to create, I started to create, DSM playbooks whenever we were talking about understanding application, pulling out particular managers who were either maybe newer to the organization or new managers, using them as my test group and seeing like, are these tools useful for you? Because if we're working with them, they're the ones where the sellers report to. They're the ones they're having the one-on-ones with, the team meetings with, and they're sitting right next to. It's making sure you have all levels of buy-in from everybody, not just top and bottom. That's been a huge success for myself over this past year. We're still seeing tweaks and improvements on things we can do, which I love because we are also in the survey and feedback land as well too. But getting just everybody's buy-in, especially their direct manager, that's going to get the most support. That's how you're going to get them to use the tools, the processes, and the frameworks, is because not just is sales enablement doing it where they're coming in for a training for an hour a week, their managers are also reinforcing and supporting it as well too. And it's part of their game plan with all of their sellers on the team too.
Okay. So does that mean you would need to get the buy-in before you make a change and bring on the new tool, as opposed to bring on the new tool and then get buy-in?
Yeah, I like to get buy-in from first I kind of take it to my core stakeholders to talk with them about it. And then I like to test step it out a little bit. So then I like to pull sellers and leaders in for interviews and show them, how does this process work? Does this actually something for the seller and yourself that are going to use on a daily basis? Is this a mindset that you think will actually help propel their business? Usually, once after I do my test dev groups, that's when I announce it. That's when I get the big groups together for trainings for sellers and for the leaders as well, too.
Okay, so when you have test groups, then if they're saying, no, don't do this, I don't want to use it, then you move on.
It kind of depends, actually.
Okay.
I had a project I was working on this year, and we were working on a proposals template. How do we use these proposal templates to, show our value? How do we put them together? And I thought it went great. And then I started reshadowing some people on how they were using these proposals in their big deals. And they were using them completely different than what we talked about. But I took that as opportunity to stay on observing these calls, and I found a new strategy out of it instead. So even though it didn't work out perfect, I pivoted and I said, okay, this is how they're using it naturally. This is how they want to use the tool. That means we need to speak to that. So sometimes it's an opportunity actually to take something new and create it to how people are actually using it on the sales floor and how leaders are interpreting it to their sellers. Occasionally you gotta scrap something. That's okay to fail forward too. But I like to first of all see like how can we recycle this? How can we continue using this in the way that they want to use it?
Okay. I want to ask specifically about CRM because this is something that
Mm,
comes up a lot with my clients. which is just fundamentally salespeople won't use the CRM, period. So, how is that a pre-planning issue? Like they should have planned better in bringing it in, or is there something that can be done to get the salespeople to use the CRM? Because I hear this over and over and over from my clients that the salespeople that they're losing out on opportunities because the salespeople, for whatever reason, it's too complicated, it's too cumbersome. They're not logging what they need to log, and nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah, I think CRM's in a unique place right now with AI being introduced so much to the business world now. And I think CRM's going to evolve. I know we've had lots of troubles in the past with sellers using CRM. I think that's going to be any sales org, any sales leaders going through and looking at ops and trying to figure out, are these real ops or are these ops up to date? Or why are there multiple of them as well too? It's trying to simplify how to use the tools for them and what's going to be something that's easy to their day-to-day use. I know for us as my team, we don't directly work with the CRM process. We have another part of our sales enablement team that works on that. However, I think the evolution of CRM for all sales orgs is going to evolve into kind of a behind the scenes CRM. I know I'm on LinkedIn and just scrolling and seeing what people are doing for CRM nowadays and how do sellers actually just input the information without having to go through 17 tabs, because each CRM is a little bit different. But I think it's going to evolve. I know our team doesn't directly impact too much of what the CRM looks like. That
So
might have
you're
all been a
saying
bad answer.
you're saying there's a bright new world coming for CRM. I think that's what you're saying.
At least I hope so for all of sales enablement leaders and sellers, because it definitely will make all of our jobs a little bit easier.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I have to ask you, because I ask all my guests, what makes you a little bit crazy about managing people or working with salespeople? What do you love? Let me start there. What do you love?
Yeah.
What makes you crazy?
Oh, what do I love? There's so much that I do love with it. I know the creativity, I think, behind it is what I love is there's so many different ways that you can expand your business, how our trainers can work with sellers. I know each person on my team, they kind of have a different strength. And so it's fun to be like, all right, like you're going to go talk with account mapping with this triage group of sellers. You're going to go do prospecting over here. You're going to go do proposals. How do you want to do it? Let's talk through your process. I really like the creativity to it that each manager, seller, and trainer I work with seems to have a different way on how they want to approach things. And so I'm more of a fail forward person is let's try it. Let's see how it goes. If it goes great, that's awesome. If it doesn't, even more awesome because we get to learn more from that. So definitely the creativity that we get to have in the sales enablement world and also just for sales in general.
Okay. And then the other half of my question, just what drives you crazy?
Oh, just people not trying, people limiting themselves. I see this with sellers and sales leaders, and I think also sometimes within like just all of our teams is there's so much more we can do if we just step a little bit out of that comfort circle each day. Just like I was talking about in the beginning with sellers, it's for all of us. And I think it's if somebody is putting so many obstacles in front of them, there's always a reason why not to do something. There's always a reason where you should be putting your time somewhere else, maybe. It's if you can just do 1% a little bit more every day, if you just push yourself, that's I think what drives me crazy is people not seeing their full potential and undermining themselves is I'm like, you would be great. You'd be wonderful at this. Just have the confidence I see you have.
Absolutely. I love what you're saying about getting out of your comfort zone. And you are right. It is something that is so difficult for so many people, but it's transformational when you do it. And so everyone listening to this podcast, listen to Samantha. Get out of your comfort zone. So this has been a great interview, Samantha. I know if people want to connect with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, you guys can find me on LinkedIn.
That's right. That's how I found Samantha. I was on LinkedIn. So if you want to connect with Samantha, her LinkedIn profile, the link to her LinkedIn profile is in the show notes. So as soon as you finish listening to this podcast, go to the show notes, click on the link, connect with Samantha. And you have been listening, and thank you all for listening to Salesology Conversations with Sales Leaders with my very special guest, Samantha Phillips. She is the Sales Enablement Manager at SHI International. And if you have found value in listening to this podcast, then please think about one business owner, one sales leader, a president, a CEO, a sales manager, somebody that you know that you think would also find value in listening to this podcast. And please do share the link with them. And until we meet again, 2 things today. Visualize yourself surrounded by cash, big bills, and number 2, get out of your comfort zone. Quoting Samantha Phillips.
You've been listening to Salesology, Conversations with Sales Leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. Be sure to follow so that you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share it with your friends. Tune in every week for more exciting insights and wisdom on transforming sales. And until next time, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, very large bills.